It's that time again. Time for some real talk about real issues to enhance your real life. Whatever you think, whatever you know, whatever you feel, Tanya doesn't mind talking about it. Get ready for some real talk that is always rated R, because Talk with Tanya has got to be relevant. Talk with Tanya has got to be refreshing. But most importantly, Talk with Tanya has got to be real. Tune in right now for Real Talk with Tanya White.
Welcome once again to the Real Talk with Tanya White show. We're still in the topic of Real Talk about forward-moving friends. We have the BLING Crew on again. This is part 2 because we got a lot to say. They got a lot to share. But before I bring them on, we got to give shout-outs to our March sponsor, Derby City Medical Partners, LaTanya Renee Banks and her partners. If you need a primary care physician, please see them. Derby City Medical Partners, LaTanya Renee Banks. They will get you right. They will show you that they care, and they will listen to what you have to say about some of your medical problems. All right, let's get back into our part 2. Real talk about forward-moving friends. If you missed part 1, you need to get on YouTube and listen to that. We talked about what friends are, who they are, the BLING Crew, how they met, some of their wisdom of what they do to hold each other accountable and move each other forward. One thing I gathered from that is that they all speak the same language. They come from love, they listen, they let each other process, and then they're intentional about meeting and sharing, and they stand for each other's greatness. So let's bring them on back. We're going to start with Miss Brooke Ferris from New York. All right. Nicole Cooper in the Kentuckiana area. Gregory Jost from the Bronx. And none other than Leotis Sanders from the Maryland, D.C. area. BLING Crew, welcome back to the Real Talk with Tanya White show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be back.
Yeah. Yes, share your wisdom. One thing, if they haven't listened to the part 1, I want each one of you to share why it's so important to have friends, and not just friends, but friends to move you forward. Let's start with Leotis.
Yeah, why is it so important is because you really can't go this road yourself. You can't grow yourself because, as we talked about in part 1, there are many things that are out of your view. You need someone who you trust will be good to you, that you can trust to give you straight and objective feedback as they see it, or at least from their perspective, because there are going to be always things that you don't see about yourself. No matter how diligent you are, no matter how much you try to be honest with yourself, the mirror cannot show you your back. We used to have a trainer in Landmark that would say, you can't coach yourself because you can't turn around that fast. And it's really true. You've got to be having somebody else who can reflect what they're experiencing outside of yourself in order to grow. And so you need a friend for that. I mean, it's great if you've got a counselor, if you've got a therapist, it's all great. But there's nothing like having that close intimacy that you can get inside of friendship, where you really know that this person is just invested in you and your greatness. And it's going to tell you from a place of love what they see to support you in getting where you want to get to.
Awesome. Brooke.
Well said, Leotis. Yeah. If you have dreams and goals, or even if you don't, and you would like to have dreams and goals, having friends who can listen to that and stand with you in that future and that possibility is key. I assert that all of us are in positions right now that we maybe had never actually, shouldn't say we didn't dream of, but we are where we are partially because of the conversations and the stand that we've been for each other. So having friends who can hear your dreams and say, yes, absolutely. That's okay. You told me that. I'm listening to you as nothing else except that from here on out. Gregory, you're an author. for me, I'm listening to Gregory as he is a published author with a successful book, keynote speaker, done. That's like a done deal. Like when these guys tell me whatever it is that they dream and hope, that's it. That's how it lives for me, as the truth, as real, as a done deal. And having friends who stand there, that's everything. Because we already do enough, or at least my identity, as Nicole likes to say, as we all share about our identities, that little voice in your head, sometimes the committee in my head that says, oh, you can't, you're not good enough. How are you going to, Like, we do that enough to ourselves. So having friends who stand for you and your dreams is key.
Is key. Gregory.
I love what both Leotis and Brooke have just been sharing. And the only thing I want to add to that is that you get to have it, at least the way that we've created it, is to have it on the daily. Because not every day when you wake up in the morning are you going to be like, yeah, motivated. No, not every day, right? Like some days we might wake up like that, we're refreshed, we're like, yeah. And some days we wake up and it's just like, resistance, survival, struggle. So having like a daily practice with people who like know what that's like. We all know what it's like, but know, right? Like we hold each other. We know that if we come in together into our space together and we're only bringing that, like it ain't gonna fly, right? Like you always have the option to be in that place, but how long are you willing to really tolerate it? And in this group, right, like I think that's one thing that I get out of it being on the daily is like I could choose. I always have the choice, right, to be in that place or to be like my realized self. And I get to choose every day. I get to choose. And with friends makes the choice. It's just it makes the choice more available, and it gives a lot of joy and love and pleasure to be able to choose it together with others.
Wonderful. Cooper.
Well, I think friends are amazing having. I'm going to speak to the dopest people that I know, and they're on this podcast right now. And I'm going to say the reason why it's so important to have these group of amazing humans is that sometimes you don't remember who you are. And when you know friends that are with you, who love you, who listen you, who speak to your greatness and who stand for you in the world when sometimes you cannot, it is wonderful to have them share with me how they see me. They fill my cup when some days I can't fill my cup, right? And we do that for each other, keep filling each other's cup, and we speak into each other's how we see them, how great they are. And sometimes it's just that bit then has me go, yeah, I remember who I am. That happened a lot in COVID, during COVID. I wasn't working. And sometimes, your self-reflections, how you feel about yourself is connected to your position, your job. What are you doing in the world? Who are you speaking to on the daily? And I wasn't doing either. I wasn't doing it. And I was like, I'm kind of forgetting who I am. Oh, and they're like, oh, for real? Let me tell you who you are. And I was like, oh, right. And that made all the difference. So I believe that you need friends to remind you who you are to them and in the world. Yeah.
And I want to add, just to remind you who you are, and from a place of authenticity, because we have people, and we're going to talk about forward-moving friends in the workplace, because a lot of our friends we work with. But sometimes we do not tell people from a place of authenticity because we haven't stood in that transformation through communication philosophy that you all learned in Landmark. And so what happens is we have a choice. Like Greg said, we have a choice to either show up in our realized place or not. And some people, because that's a blind spot, do not show up in the place that they want to realize as a person. and they forget who they are. And so when you do that, Coop, you know where I'm going back, this identity thing. You know, then you start operating, because my philosophy in my upcoming book, The Team of We leaders is leadership driven. Leaders lead the way they live. So you cannot separate who you are from what you do, basically. And so if you are a leader who in their life does not have communication, especially when it comes to conflict, you deflect, you hold grudges, that's the type of leader you're going to be in the workplace. Okay. And how does that impact the world of the workplace? It creates toxicity. All right. It creates division. It creates a culture that is not trustworthy. And so, Cooper, when we do not choose to operate from the place where we want to realize and be our greatest version of ourselves, what are some things, how do we demonstrate that through our interaction with others?
Well, a couple of things that just first I think of is having authentic conversations, just asking questions, being curious, right? Because like if we have a thought of a person who maybe I don't get along with in the workforce, or I'm not really related and I could know more about the person, but I haven't put that work in. That's something that I realized that, hey, I could have a conversation with someone I don't have relatedness with, but also put aside how I viewed them in the past, because I'd actually might consider it might not be them. Most of it isn't them. But when you're starting your steps, it's a consideration. Hey, I probably got it wrong. It's really not who they are. I just have it that they're this way. So how about I put that aside? I walk over to that person and let's just have a conversation about getting related. Like, how is this? Like, how are you doing in your new assignment, your new position? What is that about? Tell me about your family. Just getting related. And then there becomes an interest, right? Like human. We're both human. Oh, got it. Check. We're the same there. And then you just keep moving. But that's my first thing, is getting related, because you can't do the other stuff without knowing who you're talking to and looking at them as a person. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. And so when I want to go to Greg, because in part one, we talked about living through a martyr lens, and most of the resistance to embracing diversity is because we see ourselves in from a martyr perspective, basically. You see what I'm saying? Greg, when in the workplace, we all have positions that we have to communicate. We got to transform our workplaces through communication and conversation. So when you see, as on your job at Fordham, okay, what do you teach, Greg?
I teach urban studies, sociology. Yeah. So I'm teaching a class this semester on modern American social movements.
Okay.
You know, the way people organize together. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That's good. In the era that we're living in, from 1600 Pennsylvania Street, is kind of not supporting what you're teaching. Okay.
Well, that's right.
So Greg,
active resistance just showing up every day.
Listen. So how, and that's a workplace thing. You show up at Fordham, you're teaching something that the commander in chief is saying is trying to say that is ruining our society, basically. So how do you, in your workspace, it could be some students, could be some staff, how do you have that communication? And I love what you just said, through resistance of what you're trying to share.
Yeah, and I'll add to it, just also I do work as a consultant for a community organization in the South Bronx called Banana Kelly Community Improvement Association, and I like to blend those places together, because I think be out building relationships with people in the neighborhood, in the community who are doing that work, and then bringing that into the classroom and vice versa, right? Thinking the ideas that we discuss in the classroom and bringing it out to the neighborhoods, and right, and like trying and testing things out. Yeah, and I think, just speaking to the showing up as, right, like not as a martyr in it, like also protecting, like have boundaries for myself in it, make sure I take care of myself. We talk about that sometimes, like, they say, like, put your own mask on, put your mask on first before you're out, right? Because I think if I'm showing up as a martyr, then I don't get to be authentic about the work either, right? Because in a social movement, especially, right, you're organizing, you're trying to there, like, if you're not authentic, people can smell it, right? Like, they sense it, and then
say it again, Greg. If you're not authentic, then what?
Smell it. People can smell it. If you're kind of yeah, I want to do this thing, but it's like it's not coming from the heart, right? Like, I think that's the other thing in our day-to-day, right? Like, there's like we can know something intellectually, but is it also coming from the heart? Like, and when we get really in touch with our heart, we can see, like, sometimes, wait, why am I doing this? Is this just like the ego piece, or like to look good, or whatever it is, or is it really like, I had to ask for myself, like, why am I doing this different type of work? And sometimes I think at one point I was really seeing for myself, like, oh, I should be on this path to try to be the director of an organization, right? And that felt like what I was supposed to do. And there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I could probably do that. But a lot of that, and not to say, for some people that is their calling, but to get in touch with yourself about, like, what your calling is like, oh, or is that ego? Like, it would look good, it sound nice, but actually, teaching with students and being out and working on campaigns and doing good things in the neighborhood, right? Like, building the relationships along the way and connecting people in those stories, that's what brings me joy in my life. So I get to do the type of work, right, in the direction of justice and for the community, economic justice, racial justice, like, because I love it. And like the love for the people, like, I get to just practice bringing that every day for all my students, for all my other colleagues that I'm working with, and yeah, I feel like it just makes, like, when people have that sense, like, it's coming, that they can tell it's coming from my heart, I know that's when my work is most effective.
Yes. And I hear you say that you have to have a conversation with yourself and be self-reflective. Why am I doing this? And it's because you have to show up for the people who are looking to you to not only teach, but be a model of what you're teaching. And so when you are not who you are, you're not showing up in that realized place, you can kind of divide people or make them confused because they're hearing your words, but they're not seeing it operate in your actions. And so going back to that transformation through conversation, you must have a conversation with yourself. And Greg, it's okay to say, hey, this is not my calling. I know what to do.
This semester, a book that I used for the first time, and I had skimmed it before, but I had never really read it in depth before, is about Ella Jo Baker, and the civil rights movement. And she was a connector, a bridge builder, behind the scenes relationship queen, right? Like, her work, so powerful, so powerful. And she worked at different points in her life. She worked with Martin Luther King at Southern Christian Leadership Conference. She worked with the NAACP in New York City. She had helped start a really amazing organization called the Young Negroes Cooperative League during the Depression. And then later, she was one of the people that advised and did work with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, right? And helped them get started and stay independent, right? And so much of that was based on, like, not her, right, like, being attached to any one organization, but about the passion and the mission of, like, doing the work, right? And she's like, wherever I end up, wherever I fall, like, I'm gonna follow my heart in this place and speak truth, right? And she's somebody who I think I'll look up to and really enjoyed reading that book and sharing those lessons with my students, and I've been bringing it into the rest of my work as well.
Yes. So again, it goes back, who we are in life is who we're going to show up everywhere we are showing up. Work, school, community events. Leotis, You are, tell me your title again.
Senior Director of Human Resources, Inclusion, and Belonging.
Listen, inclusion and belonging. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is not, it's trying to not have that language anymore. No. How are you showing up with the illegal women voters, right? Is
yes.
that what you, because that's Delta Sigma Theta is about social action. That's one that we work with. We work with in Louisville. How are you having conversations, first of all, with yourself in the midst of resistance from the commander-in-chief, but also trying to do the work and show up at work, and for people who may be resistant in that organization? Talk about that.
That's a beautiful question. I'd say for myself, one of the things that I think about, having done this work now for 25 years.
Leotis, you only look 30. What you talking about?
Appreciate that.
Started in kindergarten.
Appreciate that. I'm only, I just turned 30. So,
okay. You've been doing this since you were 5 years old.
Lifetime of work. But here's the thing about it, right? So I don't actually consider myself the resistance to him, because that centers him, and then we're the opposition. He's actually the opposition. And what he's actually opposing is the future. All of the people that have invested in diversity, equity, and inclusion, all of these organizations have not done it just because, I guess we'll throw some money at a thing, or to be fashionable. They did it because they know that it works. They know that when you bring people together across all different races, across ethnicities, across sexual orientations and gender identities and abilities, that actually creates communities that are more vibrant, that are more resilient, and the most talent lives across all of those dimensions. They know that when you provide equity, so that when people have what they need to succeed and thrive, that it makes for better workplaces for everyone. And they know that you need to have everybody be included in those conversations about how to move the community forward in order to do that effectively. That is just a common sense argument about the future. It is he and those of his ilk who are resisting the future. They are the resistance. And the thing that we know is that you cannot resist the future. The future will win out. And so I stand in that place when I think about him, and I think about the work that I do. I am standing for the future and for the present now that's going to give that future of everyone coming together, no matter who they are, to stand for the future that we want for this country and for this planet. And so that's where I ground myself. And I'm very fortunate to work in an organization that absolutely believes that. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is at the heart of what the League of Women Voters stands for. And racial equity is a key focus right now in the organization. And they have not in one iota backed down from that commitment in this time. And really, so when I go to work every day, we're all inside of this mission about how are we going to advance this? How are we going to make sure that people know diversity, equity, and inclusion are actually about things that are valuable and healthy for people and for society, and not what he and others are trying to make it out to be. It's an amazing thing to try to say that having difference is about making the people who are less competent get into places. That's an extraordinary statement, because it gives away the game. Because if you're saying difference breeds incompetence, then what you're really saying is that competence only lives in one place.
Yes.
There's only one kind of people who are competent. There's only one kind of people who can be effective. And I wonder, given all his targets, who he thinks those people are. Right? It's a very transparent argument of the past, right? We can really see him when he says, "Make America Great Again," what he's talking about, right? Probably about 400 years. Well, I think probably the pinnacle of when he thought it was good, and probably maybe about 100 years ago, I'm sure, is when he thought it went wrong. So, I think that we can really understand where he's coming from and not have to deal with it as anything other than the same thing that people who are not white male landowners who are wealthy have wanted from the beginning of the time, which is that they wanted to be kings. Well, and guess what? Here in 2025, a lot of them still want to be kings. Now, thankfully, A lot of folks don't, right? And there's a lot of room to have conversations across the border. And my work has people of all different races and nationalities and genders and gender identities coming together for this work. And I think that that is the future and why we will win out, because the future is inevitable. Spouses is going away.
And so I took a long way around the road, because that mindset, when you try to resist the future, when you're not authentic, and you show up in the workplace, that creates conflict, because there are a lot of things that when you show up and you are future forward moving thinkers, and you have friends in the workplace who are forward moving, you're going to get resistance. All right. But you can't resist the future, because one thing that everywhere I show up, no matter what kind of leadership, is always, well, we used to do things like this. All right. When you're forward moving, the used to is appreciated, but it's not demonstrated in where you want to go. And sometimes that creates conflict with friends in workplaces. So if I'm your friend and I see you creating division, Brooke, I'm coming to you. How, as a forward-moving friend, can I have that authentic conversation and say, hey, let's talk about this. Okay, Brooke? I see you, we're friends in the workplace, but you're resisting the future, right? As your friend, I'm going to tell you outside the workplace of what I see. How do you go about that, Brooke? Because a friend is not going to allow their other friend to continue to go down a path that is detrimental, not only to them, but to the organization and the people they work with. Correct? Am I correct, BLING Crew?
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay. So, Brooke, tell me how you would talk to your friend who is.
Well, I'll tell you, actually, sometimes I have this conversation with my boss, who is my friend in a way. I've been working with him for 24 years. So this is a long-standing relationship. And there have been times in the last year or two when he has said, and just to say, he's truly an amazing human being. And he's a white man who's a little older. So just to put that in the context, right? And he sometimes will say a thing that lands for me like, huh. And, either whatever, somewhere around inclusion, around race. And I know, and this is part of it, right? It's holding people to the highest standard of who you know them to be and who you're standing for them to be. So whether or not they actually know it, I suppose, like, you can stand for them. And I stand for him because for me, like, I actually know that is who he would like to be. And then I'll say, hey, never, by the way, like, if you're having this conversation, never in front of other people, right? You take someone aside, you have a one-on-one, just as we talked about in the first episode, part of having a straight conversation with someone is making sure the communication lands. And part of that is, doing it in a way that doesn't embarrass them, doing it in a way that acknowledges them, acknowledges what maybe they were trying to do, and then sharing what you saw. So I would take him aside and say, hey, I heard you say this thing. And I would recreate that communication that he said and say, I just want to, can I share something about that? I always also ask, right? It's important. Maybe someone doesn't want coaching. That's a big thing in our agreements as BLING. We have agreed we don't have to ask anymore, because inside of what we share, we all agree to be coached. But if you're not inside of an agreement to be coached, your friend may not want coaching. And so you may say, I'd like to offer you something. May I offer you some coaching? Or may I offer you something that I heard? Your friend may say no, or I'm not really comfortable with that, or whatever. And what if that's their answer, it's actually important to honor that. They have drawn a boundary. You can always ask again at another time. perhaps that might be too soon. So just putting that out too, like no is not no forever, but taking the no is important. Okay. That said, let's say your friend says, yeah, what do you mean? What did you hear? And you can share, I heard you say this, and how it lands for me is you're saying whatever it is, you're saying, you know, it lands for me like this isn't a great reason and a great thing. And you say why. Mm-hmm. And then you say, do you see how, and then you can reflect back. Do you get what I mean? Do you hear what I'm saying? How does that land for you? And what was your actual intention? Because I mean, truly giving people the benefit of the doubt, I think 9 times out of 10, no, people aren't going in, maybe present administration
excluded.
But I think most people are not going in with the intention to, you know, to disparage or to put someone down or to do anything like that. People are just saying things and they don't try to listen. I just want to, you guys, can we share the Redbone story? Can we share the story about YMCA? Because that's a funny story. Look at Gregory. Gregory's like, no. Well, it's my embarrassment, so I'm going to share it. As a white woman, I'm sharing this story. Okay. So I was out to dinner with Gregory, my husband, who is Black, Carrie, his wife, and a few people, and we were talking about music, and we were talking about Native American bands. And Gregory was like, oh, I love Redbone. That's a really good one. And like, oh, what are other Native American bands? And Leotis, you were there too. Oh my God, because you were crying. And and I was like, what about the Village People? Because they have
my God. Oh, Brookie.
Oh, yeah, see what's happening? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. My husband was crying. Look at Leotis right now.
Oh, Brooke.
I hope you guys, whoever's listening, please watch the YouTube video.
Yes.
Because what's happening is real. And I was so embarrassed. But my point to that story, besides that it's hilarious, is that for me, like that was a embarrassingly, horrifyingly, you know, ignorant statement. And
you got Leotis for crying now.
Muted. All of them muted, by the way.
Yeah, I had to mute.
But it really came from, in that moment, totally innocent, like truly, like, oh,
it wasn't from a malice place.
No,
it was, exactly. and that is a great example when we're in the workplace. When somebody makes a statement, you have to go behind it and say, was this coming from a place of malice or a place of not knowing? Okay, that's how it. And I cannot stress this enough. I'm on this topic because we show up in the workplace who we are. I love the BLING Crew, but what I have learned is that Nicole shows up after I hear her, you know, in the morning communicating with y'all. And then because she has that intentionality, she can show up and be authentically who she is. You all can show up because you have that accountability. You have embraced that feedback. You embrace that this crew is my crew and they're going to be moving me forward. A lot of people do not have that, and I want them to have that because it makes you show up because you're already whole, complete, right? Leotis, you already that. You are enough. Where is it? Yes, you are enough. I can't see it. It's decked on it. Yes, I'm enough. Get it on Amazon. It's a part 1 and part 2 by the wonderful author Tanya White. Yes, I'm enough. And so you show up as enough. But some people do not have that blessing. And so what happens is they miss opportunities. They damage relationships that could have blessed them and could have been their own BLING Crew. but because they're not showing up or receiving, and this is what I want to go to before our time is out, receive honest feedback. They take feedback as an attack. And so let's talk about feedback. I'm gonna unmute y'all because I was hearing feedback. I was hearing feedback from the thing. But how did you all learn? Because you all came together, said we're going to be each other's accountability, and you all knew that feedback was important. First of all, someone from the BLING Crew, give me a great BLING definition of what feedback is.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I would say that feedback as we create it, as we experience it, is about sharing our experience of what someone else is saying and doing. And so when Brooke is talking about how something lands, that's really where we come from. What's our experience over here? And that is important to share with someone, because to the point of what we talked about in part one, things are out of our view. So we may be saying things with a certain intent, right? In DEI, we talk a lot about intent versus impact. And so we may not be aware of what the impact is of what we're saying. Feedback, as we create it, is sharing with someone, hey, out here, here's what I'm experiencing about what you're saying. Here's how it sounds. Here's how it feels. Here's something I think about it that you may not be intending or even aware of, but actually is manifesting in your speaking out here in the world.
Cooper, you had this very experience, without sharing details this week, but you had this very experience about giving a colleague feedback based on how something that they didn't know was offensive to some people. They came from where they came from. Okay. How did you, first of all, you knew that you had to share that feedback. It had to be shared that day. And then how did you create the moment where it was received? Because we've talked about that. Had I done it, no matter how I had done it, it would not have been received like it was received from you, a colleague. And so sometimes leaders who are listening, sometimes you have to empower your staff to give that feedback to their peers. And because you don't always have to give it, but it needs to be given. And so, Nicole, you are empowered to, and Nicole comes tell me before. I'll be like, okay, go ahead. Sometimes I'll be like, no, let me hold them from that, and then. But how did you know, first of all, that you had to give that feedback? And then how did you create the environment for it to be received?
That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, it was about the student. So my job, but my stand is about empowering the students wherever they may be. So that was why the now was important, opposed to 2 days later. It was a
sense of urgency. Yeah, it was
right.
A sense of urgency.
Because we had to get that in. As a coach, I have many students, and part of the position is taking, if there is conflict, if there's a barrier, that I look into it, right? And let's work this out. Let's discover what we can do about this if it doesn't land, the communication, whatever. So that was part of it. So I got to the sense of urgency is that the reason why I did it and how I did it had just to do, I said it before, about being related. You know, I don't talk every day to this teacher. So I started having a conversation in a classroom with other teachers with this person in it. And just having a conversation, and inserted myself in the conversation and at the conversation. I didn't have it as a big aha, big deal. I had it as, we're colleagues, we can have a conversation. So there wasn't anything in my space about better, best, all of that. And then I asked nicely if we could have a conversation in another room. And then we did. And it was about just seeing speaking for the student, what the barrier was. And there was, it was an insensitive moment, right? So what was your take on it? And then listening to what she had to share. Then I said what I said, but I got that I wasn't necessarily recreated because it didn't what I was pointing to still did not get over there with her. So then I said it in a different way that maybe she could get, and I used examples. That time she then got what my point to having this conversation was for. And again, and I inserted a few times that this is about me being a life coach. This is actually what I do. It wasn't a personal anything. This was about getting that people can be free and share and learn in a way that they don't have anything between them. There is no discord. There is no angst. There is no worry. And there was created maybe possibly some worry. And if you think about it, it's hard to have a subject matter that you might have to watch and you are looking at your grade, but at the same time, you want that A, but you feel like you have to do it because you have to do it. And I was wondering, man, how must that feel to have that uncomfortability and the angst of, I've got to get this grade, but I really don't want to do this thing. And so there was some compassion in between it. And those were the steps in which in the way that I moved, and the why.
And the why.
So it was about,
you had the why. You took, even though it was kind of personal because you're advocating for someone else, but you took that out. And I want people to hear that you had to recreate because it didn't land the way you thought it should the first time. And you had to listen, and you had to take attack words like I think and all this. You have to really be intentional about what you say. And so what I'm saying is, you do this in your regular life with anybody, right?
Yes.
If you're advocating for yourself. So again, it goes back how we relate to ourselves, the conversations we have with ourselves is how we're going to show up in the workplace. So if you are someone who said, oh, my workplace is toxic, I want you to first, this is real talk, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm hip hop. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay. Because you can't wreck relationships. You can by responding in a way that is not self-reflective, and you're just trying to get that out. That is where that transformation through conversation is. I'm glad Landmark have it. I wish I can bring Landmark to where I am. But transformation through conversation, the first conversation is with self. You got to look in the mirror. I know I have conversations with myself in the mirror because it goes back to that identity, Nicole. Sometimes the little girl in me is scared and wants to fight and wants to say things because I'm an author. I'm a wordsmith. I can put words and I don't have to physically touch you. But my words can cut deep.
Well, part of this is...
And I have to check myself.
Well, I would say that part of it is, there might be some emotional charge to whatever subject matter we're dealing with at that moment. Yeah. I think the first step, I know that what I did was I asked myself, what's the intention?
What's the intention?
Because I can then be laser in what and how I'm showing up, but also the words that I'm using, the intention, because it gets over there, opposed to how do you say woo woo? You be so nice about it, people are confused. It can be so much molasses in it. They're like, what are you talking about? Like it's so nice. I don't know what you're saying. Like, right. But if you actually have an intention of, hey, and sometimes it helps to say what the intention is at the beginning of the conversation. Yeah. If you feel that it's going to be hard to get over there, like the conversation. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but I think it starts with intention. So they can be part of the conversation, opposed to it just be like a one-sided, conversation.
And so, Bling Crew, Lord have mercy, I cannot believe again our time is gone. Oh, y'all just gonna have to start your own, so we can have these conversations.
Yes,
so meaningful. As our time is quickly running out, I want you all to share as we close this on feedback with each other. And I know as a Bling Crew, friends over 10 years, y'all hold each other accountable. There's some times y'all gotta take a step back and check yourself before you wreck yourself and wreck the Bling Crew. Correct? Greg, am I correct?
Yeah. Okay. I think how Lauryn Hill put it as, how you gonna win when you ain't right within?
Greg said, how you gonna win when you ain't right within? This generation don't know. Don't y'all better get that miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That's life lessons right there. Okay.
One of the greatest hip hop
albums. Now you gonna make me listen to that whole thing while I'm getting ready to clean up for the rest of my day. How you gonna win when you ain't right within? Cooper, I'm gonna put that on my door Monday. Okay. And they're gonna say,
what I'll say about it is, right, I think in we practice this, right, which is always like, what is there for me to be responsible for in it? And even I could say, like, some conversations with, like, in the past, like, and I know often it comes my way, right? Like, if I don't want to receive feedback, that's, I've had that plenty of times, right? Because I'm taking it too personally from this lens of judgment. But sometimes in a conversation with someone else, it's like, what's there for me to be responsible for? Also, like, have I stepped over this in the past? Which is true, right? There's plenty of times where we have all done that, right? But I can just speak for myself right now, like things where I've stepped over in the past and now I'm bringing it up. I got to own that too in this conversation, right? So what with that too is just to build on what everyone else has been saying, is like, what is there for me to be responsible for in this conversation as well? Yeah. How I've been showing up.
How I've been showing it goes back to that martyr.
We're not showing up.
Yeah, sometimes we take on things that are not our responsibility.
Yeah.
And you gotta say, what is, how am I? Yes. Leotis, you I know you got something to say. I see it on your face.
Oh, I was just thinking about that. Yeah, I would say, just really vibing with what Gregory was saying. But, Nicole used the word that we use a lot in Bling before, recreate, that she wasn't recreated. And it's sort of an internal word that we got from Landmark, but it's really about making sure that you're in the other person's world. And I would say, adding on to what Gregory was talking about responsibility, you've got to be in the other person's world in order to really understand what they're experiencing and going through before you speak to them. And a lot of times, we grew through this. We grew a lot through each other in the conversations that we had. But a lot of times we may say something because we think, I know the thing to say, or because we want to be right about something, or we want to be like, I told you, like, there's something we want to say that we want them to hear. And then when people don't receive it well, we say, well, so you just can't take feedback. But what's actually going on there is that we're not in their world. We're not in their experience. We're not actually checked in to what they're going through. So we put in a practice that before you speak to someone, recreate their communication. Even if you don't say it explicitly, make sure in your mind and heart, you understand where they're coming from. And when you are speaking, speak to that, not the thing you want to say, not how you want to say it, not that like what you've been waiting to say because you've been feeling a certain kind of way. Speak to their world. Whatever you want to say, you can say it, but you got to speak into their world, into their listening where they can hear you. And the practice is being able to do that in a way that what there is on your heart to say is heard.
It's heard. And sometimes you gotta be having a silent conversation with yourself. Because my alter ego, the ghetto, ratchet, not tame version of myself is called TT. And when I feel her rising up, I could be in the middle of a conversation and I'm talking to her because she wants to come out. That's her identity that wants to come out. Because she's untamed. And so I have to calm her down, and really recreate And what's it? And Nicole is teaching in adult roles that same language. That's why our students love it, because when you've never heard this type of information before, and is that what you need, you gravitate towards. It makes you who you want to be. And so I thank you, BLING Crew, for over 10 years doing this stuff. Tell us what's next for you individually, and then as a BLING Crew. Miss Brooke, let's start. What's next for you?
This is a perfect question, because this is what I've been talking about with the BLING Crew over the last couple of weeks, because it's a little bit of a question mark. What's next for me? So I am in the world of clown, kind of like subversive. Funny, yes, but also like the clown as the fool, like in Shakespeare, like really having something to say, having something to say to power, and the world of that. So just as context, and creating around that. So I'm in a writing workshop. I'm writing. I am looking at what my next performance will be and what I want to say, which is going to be something around being a woman, getting older as a woman, being an empowered, sexually empowered,
that's right,
human being, that, and being able to follow your dreams and be who you are, and that is okay. Like there's a world where who you be, and then all inside of consent, of course, but in the world of that, that you can do that, and that you're not too old, you're not too anything. The point of power is in the now.
That's right, in the now. As long as you have breath, you can do it. Brooke, give us our audience your contact information, how they can connect with you.
Sure, you can find me on LinkedIn, Brooke Ferris. You can also find me on Instagram at Songstars. That's at SONGSTARS. If you'd like to email me privately, you certainly can at songstars@gmail.com. SONGSTARS@gmail.com.
At GM. Brooke, you have been just brilliant. I'm going to get with you. We're gonna have a something. We're gonna talk about that sex for women after a certain age. Real talk on here. Real talk. That's what we do. Cooper.
Yes.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? I am having a book. I'm in the middle of constructing a book, See, Move, Manage.
Yes.
And you can get in contact with me through LinkedIn, Nicole Cooper, and also on Instagram, Nicole N. Cooper.
Yes. Nicole, you forgot to say that you are also a speaker at the National Conference for Goodwill with your wonderful director. We're talking about becoming a champion leader, turning pushback into sustainable process.
That's right.
You forgot to say that.
I'm so sorry. This is me and you. I feel like we have these conversations every day. Wait, when are we doing this? It's in
May.
This
is going to be her first year anniversary with Goodwill, and she is presenting at the national conference with her just dynamic Delta boss. Okay?
I'm very excited.
We still got fans from the GEMS conference in November.
Oh, that's right.
Everywhere I sent her in GEI, now she got fans. Okay?
That's what's up.
Y'all look for more of Nicole Cooper, because this director is pushing people into greatness, and she needs to be on the speaker track. Because I'm gonna be her manager and getting that 18% when I book.
That's what's up.
You see, I'm all about multiple streams of income.
Yes.
Real Talk with Tanya White, my professional gig in this life I live of luxury. Because I am the 8th member of New Edition, and anytime they go on the road, I need to be there. And so I need multiple streams of income. Okay? So BLING Crew, when y'all get y'all books out and y'all want me to book and get you on shows and all that, we can talk for a fee. Okay? Yeah. Gregory. Y'all think not playing, but I'm serious.
I know. We know you're not playing. We know you're not playing.
You're real talk. You're real talk.
That's real talk. We're just enjoying it. We're enjoying it. So in the short term, one of my work projects in a coalition in the Bronx, we're launching the Bronx People's Federal Credit Union on April 4th. We're partnered with the long-term credit union on the Lower East Side of New York City, and we're bringing them to the Bronx. They opened up a branch. We're doing a ribbon cutting on April 4th. That's the type of community work I do around cooperatives, economic empowerment, build wealth, not debt, all the things, right? We're stronger together. And medium term book, Inside the Red Lines, getting that manuscript, working with my editor to get it ready for the publisher and all that coming out, and then speaking tour. And then my longer term thing, I recently applied to and was accepted to seminary. Actually, guess what? It's in Indiana. It's the Anabaptist Mennonite Biblical Seminary, which is my dad's side of the family up in Elkhart. I'm gonna be doing
Elkhart. We got an Excel Center up there. Elkhart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll talk at some point. At first, I'm gonna do it remote, but just on my future vision, one of the things I stand for is a world where everyone experiences themselves as worthy of divine love, forgiveness, and grace, and that's what I'm about too. So,
Greg, I feel that because you're a bridge builder. And April 4th is monumental. That is the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination. So I'm glad you are creating
do positive things on that day.
Listen,
bring people. That's what he was doing. He was bringing people together.
Absolutely. Credit union in the Bronx. Come on. Yeah. Look, I got real talk. Got to see how she can get up there. That's on our spring break too. I need to do a real talk live up there because that's monumental. Greg will talk. Okay. Leotis Sander. Love it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're filming this on International Women's Day. So shout out for International Women's Day. And right now, my main thing is my heart and my hands and my head is in the work that I do at the League of Women Voters. Very dynamic, woman-led, woman-centered organization. I feel very proud and honored to be a part of it and supporting the work we are doing to advance and defend democracy. So leagueofwomenvoters.org. If you want to know what they're up to, check them out. There's really powerful things going on at the local, state, and national level. So I'm heavily involved in that work, and that has my attention. But Work as One is also a thing that exists, my business, where I'm really looking for and thinking about in this moment, how do we still advance conversations about the future? And when I say the future, I mean diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do we move forward in this moment and continue this work? Clearly, there's so much pushing against it because it's working and because it's making a difference. And there are folks that do not like it. And they will not win. We will prevail in this moment. So I'm thinking about, expanding my own business. I have a couple of clients that I work with, but, a little bit of room I'll be thinking about in the future as things may open up to take on more. Standing up my website. I have my domain, but I just want to stand up my website, really get my name out there. I see a book for myself down the road, probably not in this year, but certainly in the next. And really continuing to live a life that's full of joy. That's what I think is most important in this moment, is that everybody live a life of joy. Do not let these circumstances deter you from having the life that you want for yourself fully now. Don't wait for a future. And I think in terms of contacting me, I think we said the LinkedIn, Leotis Sanders, but work as one at asonewethrive.com. Work as one at asonewethrive.com. You'll get in touch with me.
Thank you, BLING Crew. This has been a fantastic, fun. Thank you for allowing me to be my unique Tanya self. That's the only way I show up. I keep telling people I'm 54. I can't listen. If you invite me somewhere or I invite you somewhere, you expect my authentic self. I love to laugh. I love to talk. And I love to hear backstories. And so your backstories are phenomenal. Like I said, I think off stage, I need each one of y'all to sign up for a pre-taping so we can have an individual discussion for our Real Talk audience, because we talk about real issues to enhance your real life. We're always rated R for being real, relevant, and refreshing. And that's what we've gotten today. Okay? All right. So as we wrap up Forward Moving Friends, like I said, you all talk the same language. come from a place of love. You listen, you let each other be you. If you do not have a Bling Crew, or if you do, please continue to keep it tight knit, nurture the relationship, be intentional about communicating with each other. There's so many modes of communication. And so continue to do what you do, because when you have a friend group in your life that moves you forward, you will move forward at work, in your relationships, in the community, and create who you are destined to be. Listen, you guys, again, thank you to LaTanya Renee Banks, owner of Derby City Medical Partners, for being our March sponsor. If you want to sponsor the Real Talk with Tanya White show, please do so by contacting me at realtalkwithtanyawhite@gmail.com or texting 502-509-6053. Until next time, you guys, remember to love your life, live your life, and what? Laugh through your life.